In the centre we've got the small control net tower, and that provides coverage to all what would be 16 of these. Hello mares, welcome back. This is Blocks, and thanks for joining me again today for another episode of Blocks Plays Build It. We're here in my main city today, which we took a tour of last episode, and I've made a couple of changes since the last episode, so I'm going to catch you up on those and then we'll talk about where I want to go next. So first up, I finally managed to unlock the last piece of land, which was down here. I've now put an Omega zone in this area, but I managed to get the last couple of pieces, the dozer exhaust I needed for that, and we've now got this Omega zone using this space a little bit better, and I'll show you that in a second. Let's go ahead and collect some of these Neo-Simoleons. And you can't see me doing it on screen, but obviously if you've got Neo-Simoleons yourself, you'll notice that if you can just tap two very quickly, one after the other, it will collect the ones around it as well, so you don't have to go and tap them all individually, because you can get quite a lot on screen at the same time. But this fairly handy way of collecting them makes it nice and quick. And I've redesigned this area as well, so we used to have my Omega zones kind of scattered around. And we're back in game. Sorry about that, we've already had our first crash of the episode. Not a great start. I was hoping that we might be able to make it through the episode today without any, but we'll see how we get on. It's really struggling, my phone here. I did actually put it in the fridge for about 10 minutes before I started recording, rebooted it and all that kind of stuff to try and make it quicker. But yeah, it just died there, and now it's being really slow. It's been pretty bad since the update, unfortunately. I'm not sure what it is, whether there's just lots more stuff on screen now for this really old iPhone to cope with, or it's just, yeah, it's just not displaying stuff. I no idea. I'm past trying to diagnose it. Just kind of, you know, play through and get on with it, really. Anyway, so yeah, I've redesigned this area, and you can see I've gone for a fairly simple but efficient layout of 2x2 Omega zones in the corner of these squares, and then in the centre we've got the small control net tower, and that provides coverage to all what would be 16 of these Omega zones in that area, 4 lots of 4. I've actually only got 15 because I've put a park in here as well, an urban plaza, and over on this one I've got one of the plumb bob parks. I think they look pretty cool, and that's how I'm going to keep my Omega zone for a while now. I'm earning, let's have a look, 3,384 Neo-Simoleons every 24 hours, and I need to save those up and make sure I get enough drones, because we haven't quite got enough drone coverage for these down here. And as you may have noticed if you're playing through the Omega content yourself, as you buy the Omega zones, and also the Omega buildings, so the drone base, things like the recycling centre, and the Omega water tower, all those kinds of things, they rise in price. So the amount of Neo-Simoleons required to buy a second one and a third one and a fourth one goes up. So you really have to think quite carefully about what you want to do with your Omega zones in the long term. So I'm going to leave this zone to just kind of get on with itself. I will continue upgrading and getting these buildings to as high as I can get them with the Omega items I generate from the research lab, which is, I've now moved to up here, and the items that come out of the Omega labs, which are next to it, if I can tap on it. Come on. Oh dear, sorry, it's being really laggy today. It's terrible. Yeah, come on, Omega lab. There we go, yeah, so that's the Omega lab there. Then I've got my Neo bank next to the research centre here. So yeah, my plan is just to kind of leave that develop and do its thing, collect, what was it, 3,000, 4,000 Neo-Simoleons a day for a while, and then think about spending it on drones and then upgrading that area over time. But it's going to be a long-term project. Let's head over to the area I've kind of cleared out around here, which is near this lake. So I've unearthed that lake again, and I've created some space here between this sort of Route 66 tourist style area and my vineyard kind of Parisian town low rise area leading into the mountains up there. And I've been trying to think about what's the best way to provide services to this area. So I could either go with the idea of having sort of the low-rise things like the small, you know, health clinic, small fire station, small police station in this area, but they have to be quite close to provide coverage, you see. Or I can use my Max's Manor, which is all the way down here, but provides coverage, if I just tap and hold it. It'll provide coverage all the way up to the edge. I just need to move it to back to where it was. There we go. And you can see there it intersects the buildings halfway along. So that would give us maximum coverage all the way around there. Cover the entire area and actually some of our Tokyo town zones as well. So that might be worth doing, and I'm tempted to put my Max's Manor there and then build the zones kind of around it and not worry about coverage in and around these little bits. But I'm not sure how it'll look, whether I want to break up the look by having little police stations and health clinics and things around. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. What I've also done down this end of the city, I've moved out the roads I was using for reference over here. I used to have a couple of examples of the different roads where these buildings are right now. And we've got some problems down here. Oh yeah, I moved the Max's Manor. Let's move that back, just so you can see the difference it makes. We know the position it needs to be in, which is right there, if we decide to go with that route. Normally I have it here. You'll see the boost of the population we get almost immediately. It goes from like 75,000 up to 90 or something, I think. So yeah, I used to have example roads down here just to kind of refer to in the city, and to kind of give me an idea of, you know, if I was building a new area, what kind of roads do I want to put down, what do they look like, rather than having the expense rather than having to use or, you know, spend simoleons and have the expense of building something and then feeling like I need to tear it down or bulldoze it and then start again. So that's kind of what I've done with this area, just compress that up a little bit. I have upgraded a couple of buildings down here, and I've started work on another Vu's Tower quest I got recently. Actually, I thought I'd completed them all, but I got another one here for launching disasters, earning simoleons, and unlocking in Alien Invasion 1, which feels like quite a basic Vu Tower quest. So maybe there's more in the game, or they've been added since the first one, or I just didn't know about them. Not too sure, but yeah, I'm trying to push on with that. What else have I done in my city? Oh yeah, I moved things around here a little bit. So I've moved things like the hospital and sumo hall and stuff like that, just to create space again for me to build into. I think in terms of kind of catching you up as an episode, that's going to do it for most of the sort of look around the city and the content today. But I do want to talk a little bit about my live streams, my weekly live streams, which are taking place on Tuesdays. It's 9 PM UK time that I'm doing those, and they're going really, really well. We've had a couple of episodes on the channel now of different things I built in those live streams, and I've had a couple of people also request for me to rebuild my feeder city and show that live on stream. So if that's something you're interested in seeing as well, drop a comment down below, or if there's a tip or trick that you want, let me know. Maybe I can demonstrate that live on a Tuesday. That's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you'll join me for those live streams. I hope you stay tuned for future episodes of Blocks Plays Build It, and I'll have some more tips, tricks and masterclasses as well in the near future. Take care, I'll see you next time.